Good evening, everyone. My name is Eran Nissan. I'm an Israeli peace activist. My mother was born in Israel. Her parents came to British Mandate Palestine from Poland and Romania during the 1930s. They fought in the 1948 war. They were captured by the Jordanian army, and actually they got married while being prisoners of war. My father was born in Iran to Iraqi Jews who fled persecution from Baghdad and immigrated to Tehran in the 1940s. I was born in Israel, and I'm a member of a generation very much like Obada, a generation that was born during the first Intifada, grew up during the second Intifada, and experienced 5 wars in Gaza in the past 14 years. I'm the youngest brother of 3, and my brothers and I all served as combat soldiers in the Israeli army. And we're 3 years apart, and I don't know, maybe many of you don't know this, but in Israel, military service is mandatory, and it used to be 3 years long. So on the week that my oldest brother was released from military service, my second brother was drafted. And on the week that he was released, I was drafted. And I stayed, instead of 3 years, I stayed an additional year. So our parents had a decade, 10 consecutive years with at least one son wearing a uniform, holding a gun, posted somewhere. I was a combat soldier in the Special Forces. I was in the K9 unit. I had my own personal dog, a bomb detection dog. Her name was Gigi. She's now retired. And we were sent to carry out missions and army raids in the Gaza border and mainly in the West Bank. I experienced combat. I lost comrades and classmates. And during my military service, I had what I can call a political personal crisis. And there was a crack that incrementally grew. And when I was released from the military service, I was angry and I was confused. And combat military service is an extreme experience, and you don't leave it like you went into it. And some people that I know and that I love, it pushed to the right on a political spectrum. So they're more hateful, they're more angry, they're more vengeful. And some people, like me, it pushed to the left and forward to find compassion and empathy. And I decided that I want to take a more active role in promoting a peaceful resolution. So I joined a peace organization called Peace Now, Shalom Achshav. And I've worked in peace in the past couple of years. And actually, the first Palestinian that I met without me holding a gun was Obada. And we met in London around 6.5 years ago in an amazing organization called Solutions Not Sides that brings Israelis and Palestinians to conduct workshops in British high schools. And today, this evening, I want to talk about hope, because now we need hope in the region and in the world. And what social psychology teaches us is that hope is a building with 3 floors. And the first floor is the ability to imagine a reality that is fundamentally better than the one you're in. So political imagination. And when we talk about political imagination, this first floor of hope, there's good news and bad news. Now I'm going to say there's good news, I'm going to say there's bad news, and you're going to say, what's the bad news? And I'm going to tell you the bad news, and then I'm going to tell you the good news, okay? So there's bad news. The bad news is that Israeli youth and Palestinian youth have no political imagination. They can't close their eyes and imagine a reality that is better. And this is a problem. But there's also good news. The good news is that organizations, like the organizations that Beit of Hope supports, like the Jerusalem Youth Course, or like Amal Tikva, or Roots, they develop political imaginations. They bring young Israelis and Palestinians to share the same space, and that they can close their eyes and think, okay, I know someone from the other side, and I can have a moment of empathy, a moment of intimacy, a moment of laughter together, a moment of working together. And this develops political imagination. Now, so this is the first floor. The second floor is the belief that this reality that you imagine is possible. And like in the first floor, we have bad news and good news. There's bad news. The bad news that in Israel and Palestine, people don't believe there's a solution. They will say even they can get through the first floor of saying, I can imagine a reality of peace, of justice, of equality, but it's not going to happen. There are too many settlements. There's too much hatred. There's too much hostility. There's not enough trust between the sides. But there's good news. The good news is that organizations like the ones that Bait of Hope supports are working on this second story, this second floor. Organizations like A Land for All, or organizations like Combatants for Peace, that not only works on empathy and bringing Israelis, Palestinians to co-resist the occupation, but actually promote a vision, a political, positive vision to end the conflict, of reconciliation, of transitional justice. They have a platform, they have a path forward, and they're spreading the news about how to get from believing that that the ability to imagine and then believing that it's possible. And then there's the third floor, which is the motivation to go out of your house and work in the real world to realize that dream. And here we have bad news and we have good news. And there's bad news. The bad news is that a lot of people are hopeless. Even if they can imagine a reality that is fundamentally better than the one that we are now in, and maybe they think it's possible, they're too busy, or they think that it's dangerous to be exposed. So they're not motivated to work to pursue that vision. But there's good news. The good news is that organizations like the ones that Beit of Hope supports, organizations like Zimam or New Story Leadership, are working on the ground to mobilize people, to organize people, to equip the next generation of Israelis and Palestinians with the tools that we need to get the job done, to take to the streets, to think proactively and pragmatically, to be creative, and to work on all of this building that is a Beit of Hope. The ability to imagine a reality that is fundamentally better than the one you're in, the belief that this reality is possible, and the motivation to work together to realize this dream. So tonight, I want to encourage you to keep on supporting what we are doing, because your support means more buildings of hopes, more capacity in organization and more activists that are spreading the word. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening.